Hello, friends. Welcome to day 42, another day of learning. Today, I've made sure to start early. If you've noticed, in the past streams, I was actually tired, worn out, and I think in the previous two streams, they were actually short. Why? Because of how tired I was when I began the streams. But yeah, I'm happy today I've begun a little bit early. So yeah, I actually feel a very big difference between the streams I had the past 2 days. Okay, let's carry on. Now we've been learning Alembic, okay, and it is not something light that we should do. It is something very important. Alembic helps us to easily do migrations in our FastAPI project. So I will move up, maybe for those who are watching this for the first time, but if you are, please try to watch from the beginning, okay? From the beginning and move through to where we are. And actually, probably because I took some time doing the past two streams and my mind was a little bit tired, I can quickly look at what we studied in the past, okay? And then move on in with what we have to cover today. And yeah, call it a success, okay? So the first thing we looked at was installation. So please ensure by now, I expect that if you've been following all the videos in order, you have actually installed Alembic, okay? And just quickly again, what is Alembic? Simply a tool we can use for creating, managing, and invoking change of management scripts for a relational database, okay? Using SQL Alchemy as the underlying engine. This is something you should always know about, okay? Then we talked about the environment, the migration environment, okay? Not environment, migration. Crazy. But the migration environment, okay? And how was this created? Using init, okay? Using init. And init is available after you've installed Alembic. You say Alembic init. You're going to see the full command soon. And this was the structure of the project, okay? That you have your project, then you have alembic.ini, okay? PyProject.tomo, then in a directory called Alembic, and so on and so forth. Why don't you commit on your GitHub, bro? Oh, sorry. Sorry, I forgot to do that. Okay, I forgot to do that. Sorry about that. I will push after this stream. I'll make sure I push the changes that I have made to GitHub, because actually you reminded me we did some changes concerning payments. Okay, concerning the payment gateway that we worked on. Sorry about that. Gwen, sorry about that. I will make sure I fix it today. Okay. Again, the link is in the description of the video for those who are not aware. Okay, the link is in the description, and I'll make sure I push to the public repository after the stream. Thank you for reminding me about that, Gwen. So let's go on. I see. I wanted to show you just a quick recap. I like doing quick recaps actually when I'm studying things on my own. So we have they talked about alembic.ini is this one. Talked about the Alembic directory is this one. We have the PyProject.tomo, this one. Again, I hope I've understood you. If I've not understood you, please, you can ask a follow-up question. Then you should have like Alembic should have env.py, readme, script.py.marco, and versions directory. If I go back to mine and I open Alembic, okay, you see we have versions, okay? We have env.py, readme, script.py.marco. Then here they simply try to explain what each file is, okay? Alembic.ini, they say this is Alembic's main configuration file, which is generated by all templates, okay? And we looked at this in the previous live streams, the previous two live streams, 2 or 3. So I'm just quickly going through this to remind ourselves before we continue where we stopped yesterday. PyProject.tomo is saying most modern projects have a PyProject.tomo file. Okay. Alembic might optionally store related configuration in this file as well. Okay. And then we went to now your project directory. They're saying this is the root of your application source code or somewhere with or some directory within it. For my case, it is backend. Okay. So this Alembic is in backend, this backend directory. Then we move on to Alembic itself. They're saying this directory lives within your application's source tree and is the home of the migration environment. So in my case, it is this one. Okay, this is the one which is the home of my source environment. Then they talk about env.py. They're saying this is a Python script that is run whenever the Alembic migration tool is invoked. So if I open this one, is this one. It is run every time the Alembic tool is invoked. This tool here is this file called env.py is done. Okay, so I'll only read the first lines. I'll not read all this because I read this in the past stream. I'm just reading the first lines to remind you. Okay, README, they say, included with the various environment templates should have something informative. Okay, just like the usual readme.md that you know about. Then script.py.macro, they're saying this is a macro template file which is used to generate new migration scripts. Okay, what is macro? If I open this link, I don't think we opened it in the previous live stream. Let me expand it. They're saying macro templates for Python. They're saying macro is a template library written in Python. Actually, this is my first time seeing it. Okay, and you're saying it provides a familiar non-XML syntax which compiles into Python modules for maximum performance. So the whole point is that it is a template library written in Python. What is a template? A template would be, for example, an HTML file. Okay, is a template. Okay, or a file. Okay, any file that can be processed by Python is a template. We move on to the versions directory. Again, I'm not going to read all this because this is what we studied in the previous live streams, and I don't want to waste time for all those who did this with me. Okay, I'm just doing a quick recap, then we continue. Then we have versions. They're saying this directory holds individual version scripts. Okay, so if you look at mine has only one version script. Okay, I encourage you that in your free time, even tomorrow, you can read this again. Okay, personally, I'm going to read this again. Okay, or every time I need to read documentation, you get back to it. Okay, and read. The more you read, the more you understand, and the better you become. All right, next up, creating an environment. Guyen, please let me know if I've answered your question. Okay, your concern. I want to always make sure I have understood what you've said. Creating an environment. They're saying with a basic understanding of what the environment is, we can create one using Alembic init. This will create an environment using the generic template. So Alembic init is what brings about all this. Okay, all this folder structure that you've seen here. And then they say cd to your project. Okay, activate your virtual environment, then do Alembic init Alembic. So if I copy this, okay, as a quick recap. Okay, so if I go to this as directory C, if I clear my screen, here I'm already in the backend. So if I type Alembic init Alembic, you see it's saying directory Alembic already exists and is not empty. Okay, so mine already exists. In your case, if it does not exist, you'll have a message like this in your terminal, this kind of logs. Then they're saying the above layout is produced using a layout template called generic. Alembic also includes other environment templates. These can be listed out using the list templates command. Alembic list templates. And I can copy this. Okay. I mean, just type it out. Say Alembic list underscore templates. When I hit enter, you see, we get that. Okay. We're using generic. Okay. So after that, we went to editing the .ini file. Okay. .ini is this one here, alembic.ini. Okay. Or INI. I just say ini, but I could be wrong. Okay. Now, if you continue, it says Alembic placed a file alembic.ini into the current directory. Alembic looks in the current directory for this file when other commands run. Okay, Alembic looks in the current directory for this file when other commands are run. To indicate an alternative location, the config option may be used, or Alembic underscore config environment variable may be set. So they're saying that when we're using Alembic, okay, Alembic will look for this alembic.ini in this backend directory. If you want to if your alembic.ini, for example, maybe is in this front-end directory, make sure you either do one of the following. Use the Alembic config environment variable to set, okay? Maybe I can say something like this, okay? I say Alembic underscore config is equals to, then I mention the path, maybe slash front end, okay? Slash maybe front end, slash maybe front end, okay? Different directory like this, slash maybe alembic.ini, okay? This is how you can do it, okay? But for mine is in the current working directory, which is backend. All right, or you can use the -config option. Then you're saying tip, they say the file generated with the configuration template contains all directives for both source code configuration as well as database configuration, okay? Now they're saying when using the PyProject template, the source code configuration elements will instead be in a separate. I want to read this again. The file generated with generic configuration template contains all directives for both source code configuration as well as database configuration. When the PyProject template, when using the PyProject template, the source code configuration elements will instead be in a separate PyProject.toml file described in this section here, called using PyProject.toml for configuration. Then after, they're saying the all-in-one.ini file created by generic is illustrated below, okay? And this is the whole thing, okay? The whole thing. So we are actually reached a point where we are now studying it, okay? And now they were saying the first one, what is it? They're saying the alembic.ini file is consumed by Alembic using Python's config.parser library. The here's variable is provided as a substitution, which is populated with the absolute path to the alembic.ini file itself. Okay, so they're saying this alembic.ini, which holds configuration for the database, okay, is consumed or is processed by the config parser library. Okay, so config parser processes the configuration in this file to understand what is going on, okay, what configuration needs to be set for the project, and the path, okay, is provided as a substitution, okay, with the absolute file. So let me explain this. I think this is what I'm saying here's, okay, this here's, okay, here's is substituted, oh my god, English. Here's is substituted or replaced, okay, with the absolute path to this actual file, alembic.ini, okay? So take note of that. Then they're saying this can be used to produce correct path names to directories and files relative to where the config is located. So simply, this one is replaced with the actual path, the absolute path to alembic.ini. Okay, team, they're saying percent signs in alembic.ini configuration variables that are not part of an interpolation token like here's, including percent signs that are part of the SQL Alchemy database URL for its own URL escaping requirements, must themselves be escaped. See the section escaping characters in the ini files for more information. Okay, so you're simply saying that the percent signs, okay, are percent signs which are configuration variables are not part of an interpolation token. Okay, The whole point is that the whole thing will be interpreted, okay? And they have to be escaped, okay? But the whole thing is that it will be replaced. That's the whole point. This will be replaced, okay? This will be replaced. So, okay, we now move on. Now explaining every section, this and so on. They say Alembic, okay? They're saying this is the section read by Alembic to determine configuration. Okay. Again, I'll not read all this because we went through it in the previous live streams. I'm just reminding us. Then we go. Next script location. They're saying this is the location of the Alembic environment. This is this. Okay. Location of the Alembic environment. Why? Because this first part is replaced by the absolute path to this very file. We move on. File template. Okay. They're saying this is the naming scheme used to generate new migration files. File template, we need to use, where's file template? File underscore template. Oh, it's here, but it's commented out. Okay. This one. Okay. So this one, you see it has like the year, the month, the day, hour, minute. Okay. And slug. So they say uncomment the presented value if you would like the migration files to be prepended with date and time. In other words, if you want the files to at the end of the file to be added date and time, we remove it. If I go to okay, it's okay. I wanted to prove that there is none with date and time, and that's okay. So if you want date and time to be prepended, okay, prepended, not appended, but prepended, we can uncomment this line here like this, okay? But for now, I'll leave it commented, okay? Okay, so they're saying revs is revision ID, okay? So they're saying the default value is revs slugs, revs underscore slugs. What is revs? Revs is the revision ID. Slugs, they're saying a truncated string derived from the revision message, okay? They have epoch, says epoch timestamp based on the create date. Okay, they're saying this makes use of the Python datetime.timestamp method to produce epoch value. Okay, then of course they tell us about what you have seen here. Okay, that the year, month, day, etc. The year, month, day, hour, minute, second. Okay, so components of the create date by default datetime.now unless time zone configuration option is also used. Then you go to time zone. They're saying an optional time zone name, e.g. UTC, EST5, EDT, etc. That will be applied to the timestamp which renders inside the migrations files comment as well as within the file name. Okay. So they're saying this option requires Python greater or equal to 3.9 or installing the backports.zone info library and the TZ data library. If time zone is specified, the create date object is no longer derived from datetime.now and instead generated as datetime.utc now.replace. Okay, so this one is replaced with tz info, meaning the time zone information is equal to datetime.timezone.utc. Okay, then they say outside replace, they call a method saying as time zone, then they pass zone info time zone. This is how it is called. Okay, if I go here and I look for time zone, okay, you see it's here. It's actually empty. Okay, it's actually empty. I mean, not empty, but commented out. Yeah, but it's actually empty. Okay, they're saying it's changed in version 1.13.130.0. Python standard library zone info is now used for time zone rendering in migrations. Previously, Python.util was used. Okay, so yeah, it's important to know about these version changes. Awesome. Okay, in the past few streams, I would just talk about for a few minutes and I would feel so tired. But it's amazing. I've made almost 20 minutes and I still feel my strength. The next one is truncate underscore slug length. Okay. The thing defaults to 40. This is the maximum number of characters to include in the slug. So I copy this, get here, look for it, it's here. Okay. Maximum length of characters to apply to the slug. Okay. Remember slug? Where is slug? We just look at the slug. This one here. Okay. This one here. The maximum number of characters to append to the slug. Okay. To include, not what to include. Okay. It's this one here. Then SQL Alchemy.url is saying a URL to connect to the database via SQL Alchemy. This configuration value is only used if the env.py file calls upon them. In the generic template, the call to config.getMain option, okay, which passes SQL Alchemy. Okay, so this is the function, okay. GetMain option, a function which passes in SQL Alchemy.url, okay, a string. So they say the call to this function in the run migrations offline function and the call to engine from config with an argument called prefix whose value is SQL Alchemy in the run migrations online function where in the run migrations online function are where this key is referenced. If SQL Alchemy URL should come from some other source, such as environment variables or a global registry, or the migration environment makes use of multiple database URLs, the developer is encouraged to alter the .env.py file to use whatever methods are appropriate in order to acquire the database URLs. So let's find out. Okay, let me go to where is it? env.py. Okay, so I want to search for this function. Okay, it's actually right here. Looks like it has been commented out. Okay, but run migrations offline is here. Okay, run migrations offline is right here. Run migrations online is also here. Okay, so I hope you get it. Okay, it's saying a URL to connect to the database via SQL Alchemy. If I go to alembic.ini and I look for SQL alchemy.url, okay, you're seeing it's right here. This is it. Okay. Okay, so they're saying it is actually even here in the comment, they're saying this is consumed by user maintained env.py script only. Okay, so it is used here. Okay, and okay, so there's a call, okay, to the functions get main option, okay, in the run migrations offline function. So run migrations offline. Oh yeah, I see it. Are you seeing this? Config.get main option. So they're saying there's a call to this function in run migrations. Yeah, this now makes sense. This is how they pass it. What else? And this is a call to engine from config in the run migrations online. If I go to migrations online, excuse me, they should be engine from config. Yeah, prefix equals to SQL Alchemy with a period. Yeah, correct. Now they say if SQL Alchemy should come from some other source, such as environment variables or a global registry, or if the migration environment makes use of multiple database URLs, the developer is encouraged to alter the .env file to use whatever methods are appropriate in order to acquire the database URL or URLs. Okay. Then we have the revision environment. They're saying this is a flag which when set to the value true will indicate that the migration environment script env.py should be run unconditionally when generating new revision files, as well as when running the Alembic history command. So the saying will indicate that the migration environment script, okay, should be run unconditionally when generating new revision files, as well as when running the Alembic history file. So when true, it will be run unconditionally. So let me look for revision environment. Revision underscore environment. Okay, so right now it has been commented out and it is, the value is false. Okay, not bad. Okay, I need to move on to something else. Okay, just got a small distraction. Let me take care of it right now. Just a moment. So let's go to source. What is it called? Sourceless. Okay, sourceless. So sourceless says when set to true, revision files that only exist as .pyc or pyo files in the versions directory will be used as versions, allowing sourceless versioning folders. When left at the default of false, only .py files are consumed as version files. Okay, so sourceless, it's right here, also commented out. Okay, now some of the things what clearly actually what make proper sense. So we move. Okay, we keep moving. The next one is called version underscore locations. They're saying an optional list of revision file locations to allow revisions to exist in multiple directories simultaneously. Okay, a list of revision file locations. So if I go to, it's actually right here. Okay, version, is it called version locations? Yes, it is right here. Okay, saying a list of revision file locations which allow revisions to exist in multiple directories simultaneously. Next up is the path separator. Saying a path separator character from the version underscore locations and prepend underscore sys underscore path lists only applies to config parser, not needed if PyProject.toml configuration is used. See working with multiple databases, for example. Okay, where is it? Path separator right here, also commented out. So simply tells Alembic which character can we use to split lists of files. Okay, as simple as that. So recursive version locations set to true. When set to true, revision files are searched recursively in each version locations directory. Okay, say added in one. So added in 1.0 output encoding. The encoding used when Alembic writes the script.py.marco file into a new migration file. The thing defaults to this UTF-8. What is it called? Output encoding right here. Okay. Next up, talk about loggers, handlers, formatters, logger underscore star, formatter underscore star. These sections are all part of Python's standard logging information. Okay, and they're saying the mechanics of which are documented at configuration file format. As this is the case with the database connection, these directives are used directly as the result of logging.config.fileconfig call. Okay, they're saying as this is the case with database connection, these directives are used directly as the result of the logging.config.fileconfig call present with the env script, which you are free to modify. Okay? Simply a format, okay? A format. Can I look for this? Loggers. Okay. Yeah, so they have loggers, okay? The same order, loggers, handlers, formatters. Then there's logger underscore star, which is the same root logger alchemy, okay? So logger root. So if you see the star here, okay, when they say logger star or asterisk, handler underscore asterisk, formatter underscore asterisk, the asterisk in this case would be this text would be logger underscore root. Root is the asterisk. SQL alchemy, meaning you can have logger with anything else. Okay, logger underscore asterisk means any other thing. So in this case, any other thing could be root, SQL alchemy, Alembic. Okay, and these are just simply formatters for the logging level. You remember when I built a log manager? When I was explaining at log manager, we talked about logging levels. Okay, and you can see this is warning. Okay, who's handling it? The console. Warning, this one has no handler. Okay, info, no handler. Okay, so we have also formatter, generic, handler, console, those kind of things. Okay, let's go on. Okay, and of course, if you know Python, by the way, you may know the stream handler. You know sys.std error. Okay, the standard error. Okay, if you've forgotten, go and revise your basic Python concerning standard error, standard input, standard output. Okay, even the concepts around that, they apply to generally all programming. Okay, in general. Okay, all right, so let's move on. They're saying for starting up with just a single database and a generic configuration, setting up the SQL alchemy URL is all that's needed. Okay, so for just starting up, okay, setting up the SQL alchemy URL is needed. Okay, SQL alchemy.url equals to this, simply path to your database. Okay, and if we go here to look for it, I think it's actually uncommented out. Okay, says SQL.alchemy URL driver. Okay, full colon 2 user full colon pass. Okay, which is the local, what do you call it, the password, localhost, then database name. Okay, take note of that. Okay, take note of that. Just a moment. Okay, so I hope this makes sense to you. Let's now continue. So yeah, we're moving. So it's the minimum configuration. Actually, I talked about the files that use it. Okay, like run migrations online. Okay, and run migrations offline. But let's move on. We want to get done with this in a very, very good way. All right, so the thing escaping characters in ini files. As previously mentioned, Alembic's ini file format uses Python config parser to parse the file. Okay, think about parsing the file as reading the file or understanding the file. Okay, and by the way, right now, if you think there's something that you understand better than me, okay, please let me know. Okay, or if you think there's something that you haven't understood, I can help you. I can explain. Okay, you can leave a question in the comment section, and I'll be glad to explain. Now, moving on, we have statements saying config parser's interpolation feature is enabled in this operation to support the use of the here's token as well as any other tokens that are user configurable via the config_args parameter when creating a custom config object. Now they're saying this means that any literal string that includes a percent sign that is not part of an interpolated variable must be escaped by doubling it. That is, for a configuration value like this in a Python script. Okay, I'll read this again just to make sure I understood it. We are saying config parser's interpolation feature is enabled in this operation to support the use of the here's token, comma, as well as any other tokens that are user configurable via the config.config_args parameter when creating a custom config object. Now they're saying this means that any literal string that includes a percent sign that is not part of an interpolated variable must be escaped by doubling it. That is for a configuration value like this in a Python script. And this is it. Okay, your configuration and there. Okay, you go as an example. So this is the example. And they're saying to be passed from the .ini file would be placed as, okay, you have the Alembic, okay, then you have configuration value equals to sum %%, then string. Then, so from time to time, always, you can always check this, okay? For example, if you're forgetting what Alembic, that thing means, you come here, you really say path to migration scripts. Okay. So they're saying this escaping can be seen in the same. No, I read that wrong. They're saying this escaping can be seen in the sample alembic.ini file illustrated in such values as file template. So the escaping, okay, so the same template used to generate migration file names. The default value is %%. Yeah, so you see the escaping that we have in this file template thing, okay, in this configuration, which is the format of how the file will be set up. File_template. You see, it's just commented out. If I remove this, okay, you'll see it clearer. So I'll undo that, save, get back here and continue. They're saying where above the actual file template that is sent to Alembic's file generation system would be this, okay, the whole thing. So they have a tip. They're saying Alembic also employs %sign interpolation of values when retrieving values from a PyProject.toml file, as documented at PyProject.toml for configuration. So the same %doubling steps must be applied in Alembic parsed values for fields such as templates. Okay, so the %doubling steps must be applied in Alembic parsed values. Okay, so you just look at that. Okay, the percents have been doubled. They're 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, and now here in this actual template, the actual template which is passed to Alembic's file generation system has only 1%. Okay, 1%, 1%. So they have to be double. That's the rule. Okay. Even here, you see, we had 2%. So take note of that. Now to continue, let's read on. They're saying for the SQL Alchemy URL, %signs are used to escape syntactically significant characters such as the @ as well as the %sign itself for a password such as this. Okay, read this again. For the SQL Alchemy URL, %signs are used to escape syntactically significant characters such as the @ as well as the %sign itself. For example, a password as this. So if your password is password, okay, but with an @ and this %, okay. So see, my actual password equals to this, okay. So yeah, try to get it, okay. Pretty interesting, right? And they're saying as documented by SQL Alchemy, the @ as well as the %sign when placed into a URL should be escaped with urllib.parse.quote+. So you see they import it, okay? Then they pass the actual value, okay? In this case, which is the actual password to the quote+ function, okay? Then when you produce it, the quoted password, okay? Are you seeing the result? Okay. You have a P, percent, that 40. Okay. You have then the W, then 25. Take note of that. They're saying this URL quoting can be seen in SQL Alchemy's own configuration of URLs. So from SQL Alchemy, they import URL, then they say URL.create, some database, username, the password, and the host. Okay. And they call the render as string, and they say hide password equals to false. And if you look at this string, okay, you will see that we have the same structure, okay, for the password here, okay. The percent, the 40, the percent, then the 25 for this at, for the at sign, okay, and for the percent, they've got to be escaped. So they're saying for the above escaped password string, password would be for the above escaped password string this to be placed into a config parser file that includes interpolation of percent signs. Percent characters are doubled. So it's a SQL Alchemy quoted password dot replace percent with double percents. Okay, so you see we have double percents. Okay, so that it can be placed into the config parser. Okay, which is able to understand the percent signs. Now, when we move on, they're saying here is a complete program that will compose a URL and show the correct config parser form for a given set of database connection details, as well as illustrate how to assert these forms for correctness. Okay, a program which will compose a URL and show the correct config parser form for a given set of database connection details, as well as illustrate how to assert these forms for correctness. So when I move on, let's look at this script, okay? So you see from SQL Alchemy, we import URL and make URL. Then they say input the driver, okay? So basic script, so you enter the driver, you enter the username for your database. So for the driver, this could mean either it's a Postgres database driver, SQLite driver, MySQL driver, okay? Or in any other relational database driver you like. And actually, this is a script you can actually use for your programs if you would like, okay? Then you enter the username of your database, the password, okay? Where it is hosted, the port, okay? And the actual database. Then it says URL.create. So it's the SQL Alchemy URL, okay? And all these values, okay, are passed. The driver, the username, the password, the host, the port, okay? And database. And because you're picking the port from input function, initially it is a string, but this value here should be a port when passing it to URL.create. So you have to convert it to an integer, okay? And I'm sure many of you who have done such scripts, you are very aware about finding this kind of situation that everything you get from input is a string. So sometimes you need to convert to an integer using int. After that, what do I see in this code? I see they're saying stringified SQL Alchemy URL will be equals to SQL Alchemy.render as string, and they say hide password equals to false. This is actually not new. We've looked at it up here. Where? Here, okay? Which helps us to see the actual password, okay? Then what else? They're saying assert make URL round trip, okay? They're saying assert make URL that this stringified SQL Alchemy URL is equals to this one, okay? So the comparing that this one here, okay, is equals to this one. So it should return either true or false. Then have a simple print statement which is saying the correctly escaped string that can be passed, okay, to SQL Alchemy make URL and create engine is they pass the stringified SQL Alchemy, okay. So after that, the next line of code is saying the percent replace URL will be equals to the stringified SQL Alchemy URL dot replace, okay. Now they are doubling, okay. Now you see, this is what they're talking about. you double. So for every percent sign, they're replacing it with 2% signs. Then they're saying assert percent interpolated plus make URL round trip. They're going to make another assertion, okay? That this percent replace URL, this one here, is equals to the SQL Alchemy URL. Then they print, so the SQL URL that can be placed in a config parser, okay? File such as alembic.ini is, okay? So there are think about the format, okay? There is a structure of a URL which can be placed in the alembic.ini, okay? And there's one which can be passed to make URL and engine, okay? So they're different, okay? So I don't know if you need to run this program, but you can copy it, okay? And try it out in your program, okay? I mean in your environment. They're saying the above program should eliminate any ambiguity when placing a SQL Alchemy URL into a config parser file, okay? So you look at how they try it, okay? They said they run the script python alembic.py, okay? Alembic pwd script.py. Database driver, they put PostgreSQL SQL plus psychopg2, okay? The username is Scott, the password is this, the host is localhost, the port is 5432, database is testdb. Then you see the message says the correctly escaped string that can be passed to SQL Alchemy make URL and create engine is this, okay? Look at the password, guys. See, are you seeing this? %40, %25, where the percent and at is, okay? This is the one. Then we look at the next one. They're saying the SQL Alchemy URL that can be passed in a config parser file such as alembic.ini is, look at this one here, okay? So the difference is that every percent, okay, has been doubled. Why? Because of this replace, okay? Take note of that, okay? The formats are very important. Where have I gone? Looks like I've missed it. Okay, I'm back, okay? So I know many of you might be curious, thinking, let me try it out, okay? Let me try it out so that your mind is free. We're almost done with this. Let me try to create it, okay? Later on, I think I'll delete it. I'm just going to call it script.py. Let's give it simple. Script.py. Then I paste. I expand this up, okay? Expand, and so that you believe me, I'll put the same values. I'll say Python script.py, hit enter, database driver. Let's copy this, okay? Copy that, paste, username, we have Scott, paste, should have just typed it, okay? I guess I'm now used to copying and pasting. Host, localhost, okay? Port 5432, database, testdb, shouldn't have copied this too, okay? I think we get exactly the same thing. So I hope you've understood, okay? That is why I actually went through every line of code, okay? So you understand what render as string does, okay? You understand what replace does. I think replace is a Python function that everybody, I think, probably knows, okay? We move on. Where are we? Okay. So now we look at using PyProject.toml for configuration. So I want to delete this. And Guyen, don't worry, I'm going to push the code today. Let me, yeah, okay, I think I'm done with this. Minimize this. So yeah, I hope, like I always say, I'm a person who is happy to learn from anybody on the internet. If you have something that you've understood that you think I haven't understood well, please teach me, okay? Type it in the comment section. Very soon I want to find a way of doing it in such a way that even you can daily and we have a chat together and learn and share ideas. Sometimes you learn when you speak out concepts out loud. That's when you master them and learn them. Okay. So if you do, please, I would appreciate your wisdom. And if nothing is clear, please don't hesitate to ask. I would be happy to clarify something as I understand it. Using PyProject.toml for configuration. This thing added in version 1.160. They're saying as the Alembic, excuse me, let's read this. They're saying as the Alembic.ini file includes a subset of options that are specific to the organization and production of Python code within the local environment, these specific options may alternatively be placed in the PyProject's toml file to allow for PEP 621 compliant configuration. Okay. File includes a subset of options that are set to the organization and production of Python code within the local environment. These options may alternatively be placed in the PyProject.toml to allow for PEP compliant configuration. Okay, so PEP is simply a standard. Okay, so where's the PyProject.toml? It's right here. Okay, which was created by UV for us. We go on. So they're saying use of PyProject.toml does not preclude having an Alembic.ini file as well, as Alembic.ini is still the default location for deployment details such as database URLs, connectivity options, and logging to be present. Then they go on to say, however, as connectivity and logging is consumed only by user-managed code within the .env py file, it is feasible to have an environment that does not require the Alembic.ini file itself to be present at all if these configuration elements are consumed from other places elsewhere in the application. Okay, I want to read this again to make sure I've understood it. However, as connectivity and logging is consumed only by user managed code within the env.py file, it is feasible to have an environment that does not require the alembic.ini file itself to be present at all if these configuration elements are consumed from other places elsewhere in the application. So the thing, Alembic will still run successfully if only a PyProject.toml file is present and no alembic.ini is found. In other words, we can use PyProject.toml for configuration, okay? And we don't use an alembic.ini, okay? So yeah, and I think if you're trying to do this with AI, actually you can give AI this whole documentation, okay, as context, and it could be very helpful. So they're saying to start with the PyProject configuration, the most straightforward approach is to use the PyProject template. Okay, they're saying Alembic init template PyProject Alembic. Okay. So there's actually a template. Okay. That I'm just learning about right now. Okay. I don't want to just follow AI blindly and trusting it to do the right thing. And actually, the way I'm seeing it, I would have avoided this alembic.ini, okay, and probably had maybe only the PyProject.toml. I don't know, okay. This is my first time working with this, but of course, as I go on, I will learn. All right, let's continue. So the output states that the existing PyProject file is being augmented with additional directives. Okay, let me copy this. Copy, come here, expand this, clear my screen, paste. Okay, it already exists, so it won't do it. Okay, no problem. So if you haven't, try it out. Let me read this. They're saying Alembic's template runner will, come on, let me select all this. Alembic's template runner will generate a new PyProject.toml file if one does not exist, or it will append directives to an existing PyProject.toml file that does not already include Alembic directives. Okay, so already we have an Alembic.ini, that's the first thing. Then of course the PyProject.toml already exists. Okay, and because this other one exists, no change was made to this. Let's continue. Okay, what am I looking for? This. Within the PyProject.toml file, the default section generated looks mostly like the Alembic.ini file. Within the welcome exception, wait, I think I've misread something. Let me read this again. Within the PyProject.toml file, the default section generated looks mostly like the Alembic.ini file. With the welcome exception that lists of values are supported directly. This means the values prepend underscore syspath in version locations are specified as lists. The here's token also remains available as the absolute path to the PyProject.toml file. So this is it, okay? It will appear something like this. It will be similar. It will have essentially the similar configuration. Actually, this configuration which achieves the same purpose. Okay, so what you put in alembic.ini and pyproject.toml is used to achieve the same purpose. Okay, now they're saying when env.py is configured to obtain database connectivity and logging configuration from places other than alembic.ini, the file cannot be omitted altogether. Reading this again, when env.py is configured to obtain database connectivity and logging configuration from places other than alembic.ini, the file cannot be omitted together. Okay. All right. So yeah, good stuff. Okay. Yeah. So to strengthen your understanding, you can not watch, but read this again. Of course, watch this again. Now let me continue. I'm almost at the end. Yeah, funny how energy levels, okay, can determine how you work. The previous live streams I wouldn't last even can I could say an hour. I was literally like depending on like just I don't know, strength, can I say that? But right now I've been able to persist and spend more than, can I say, maybe more than 40 minutes. One stream I think I lasted about 20 or less. Okay, let's continue. They're saying create a migration script. I think this is the nice part, but we're almost done. They're saying with the environment in place, we can create a new revision using Alembic revision. So you say Alembic revision -m create account table. Okay. So you're saying a new file. This is generated looking inside. Looking inside the file, you have things like this. Let's try it out. Okay. So I'll come here. And I don't want to be tempted to copy and paste. I want to do it from scratch. So I'll say Alembic, okay, Alembic space revision space -m create space account space table. Okay, see, it's been created. Let's go to that revision. We go to versions. Of course, I'll delete it because it's not really that. So you see, this is what we get. Okay, the same content, revision, down revision, branch labels, depends on upgrade, downgrade. If we come here, you see the same things. So they're saying, excuse me, they're saying the file contains some header information identifiers for the current revision and a downgrade revision, an import of basic Alembic directives, an empty upgrade and downgrade functions. Okay. And they say our job here is to populate the upgrade and downgrade functions with directives that will apply a set of changes to our database. I hope this is not manual, okay? Because to do a manual migration in Django, it's really rare, okay? Of course, it can happen, but not for basic stuff. Typically, upgrade is required while downgrade is only needed if down revision capability is desired, though it's probably a good idea, okay? Now they're saying another interesting thing to notice rather, another interesting thing to notice is the down revision variable. This is how Alembic knows the correct order in which to apply migrations. When we create the next revision, the new files down underscore revision identifier would point to this one. Okay, so the Alembic knows the correct order to which apply revision using the down revision variable. Okay, so when you create the next revision, the new files down revision identifier would point to this one. Okay, so when I create a new revision, this down revision is, so let me check. So down revision, there's no value actually for this case. Okay, oh, it's here 001. There it is. Okay, oh yeah, I understand it. So if we do to the down revision, we would end up with 001, which is this previous one. Okay, that makes sense. Excuse me, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so let me test it out. I want to test something. Once I create account table, create order underscore table. Come on, I'm missing something. Okay, there it is. So if I go to this revision, okay, I see this other value. If I come here, I see this one, I see this one. Okay, it makes sense. If you look at the first characters, okay, before the underscore, whether these values actually match. This one matches this other one, and this one matches the beginning of this other one. If I go to this one here matches the beginning of this one, and this one matches the beginning of this other one. So that's right. So let me read this properly. Every time Alembic runs an operation against the versions directory, it reads all the files in and composes a list based on how the down revision identifiers link together. Okay, it reads all the files in and composes a list of how the down revision identifiers link together, with the down revision of none representing the first file. Okay, if I come here, so yeah, down revision is none, yeah, representing the first file. So to compile all those values, okay, all these ones compile, this will be the start, okay, then to this one, okay, then there's also this other one here. Okay, so they're saying in theory, are they using a linked list? Okay, I do not go into that. I'm just trying to think out loud how they implement it, whether just as a normal regular list or if they use a linked list. So they're saying in theory, if a migration environment had thousands of migrations, this could begin to add some latency to startup. But in practice, a project should probably prune old migrations away. They're saying see the section building up-to-date database from scratch for a description on how to do this while maintaining the ability to build the current database fully. Okay, these are things we shall learn from time to time as we grow into this project. All right. Now they say when we can then add some directives to our script. Suppose adding a new table account. Okay, so we have upgrade. Okay, saying op.create table account. Okay, then these are the columns. Say column ID integer primary key equals to true. Because I've done several of this, I find this very easy to understand. But I really hope it's not a manual thing. Otherwise, it would be very disappointing. Okay, another column called name string of length 50 cannot be null. Description Unicode 200. Okay, then with downgrade, they simply call drop table account. So it's saying create table and drop table are Alembic directives. Alembic, they're saying, provides all the basic database migration operations via these directives, which are designed to be as simple and minimalistic as possible. There is no reliance upon existing table metadata for most of these directives. They draw upon a global context that indicates how to get a database connection, if any. Migrations can dump SQL DDL directives to files as well in order to invoke the command. This global context is set up like everything else in the envpy script. Then they're saying an overview of all Alembic directives. An overview of all Alembic directives is at this operation reference. Okay, so you can find it here. Okay, so for this, I'll simply also copy this. Okay, since we are learning, but I want to, of course, our project does not need this for now. Okay, so I'll remove them later. I just want to test. Okay, let's see. Now the thing running our fast migration. So they're saying we now want to run our migration, assuming our database is totally clean. It's as yet unversioned. The Alembic upgrade command will run upgrade operations, proceeding from the current database revision. In this example, none to the given target revision. We can specify this number as the revision would like to upgrade to, but it's easier in most cases to just tell it the most recent, in this case, head. So this number here refers to what I was telling you about. These numbers here, okay? These are the revisions. So if I go to this one, you see this number here, okay? This number. So take note of those revisions, okay? So when they say Alembic upgrade, okay, they're actually calling this function. That's what I've understood. Where is it? This function here, upgrade. Or you can say Alembic downgrade, okay? And here they're saying do the most recent. So if I clear my screen, I'll say Alembic upgrade, okay, head. If I open, okay, we have a good error, okay, says name DB, the saying could not translate host name DB to address. Node name or server name provide node name nor server name provided or not known. Okay, why? Because DB is from our Docker. Okay, so let me try to do this. I'll clear my screen. Say Docker compose app. Create a new terminal. So Docker PS. This is the ID of our app. So I'll say Docker exec container, say -it, then, and soon I'm going to release a video about Docker. Then what else? Then I can run this command, okay? Say Alembic upgrade head, hit enter. failed, unable to start container process exec file not found. I think I'm forgetting how to run basic Docker commands. Okay. Of course, exec exists. Am I just tired? Okay, let's see Docker. So you see, Docker exec. Isn't that what I just did? Docker exec minus IT, the container. Okay. Then I run the command. Okay. Or I can do this. Then I can say UV run. Since I'm running UV, this should work. Ah, there it is. Okay. There it is. I was going to wonder. Yeah. Because actually we are running UV in the container also. So that had to work. So you see, database was created by the operating system, reviewed all objects in the database, reviewed all objects. That means everything is lost. All right, since it's just testing, I hope this doesn't mean what it means. Okay. Maybe I've understood. Okay. Let's continue. Next up, we're saying, wow, that rocked. Note that the information we see on the screen is the result of the logging configuration set up in alembic.ini, logging the Alembic stream to the console, standard error specifically. Okay. So if I come here, I'm trying to see something more. Wait, read this. It says runtime exec failed, unable to start container process exec Alembic. What's next? Docker. Okay, that's okay. This is what we ran. This is the latest command. And says when in database Postgres has a correlation version mismatch, database was created using correlation version 2.6, but the operating system provides version 2.41. Hint. Okay, this is a hint. Okay. They're saying rebuild all objects in this database that use default correlation and run altered database Postgres refresh correlation version. Okay. So yeah, not bad. I thought it had actually rebuilt. This is the disadvantage of not trying to give attention to detail. Okay. So it is saying this is actually giving us a solution of what we can do. But of course I want to do because I'm just learning. It says context impel Postgres impel will assume transaction DDL. Okay. No problem. That was a good learning experience. Now we move on. You're saying the process which occurred here included that Alembic first checked if the database had a table called Alembic version. If not, created it. It looks in this table for the current version, if any, and then calculates from the path this version to the version requested. In this case, head, which is known to be this, and then they saying it invokes upgrade method file to get the target version. Then they're saying running our second migration. They say let's do another one. So we have some things to play with. We again create a revision file, Alembic revision minus m, add a column. Okay. So they're creating a new revision. Okay, let me see. New revision, add a column. The thing script key, no script location key found. Okay, I need to go into backend. There it is, it's done. So let's edit this file to add a new column to the account table. Copy. Close this. Open this. Is it this one? Revision identifiers. It should at least create, this is creating the order table. This one is create account table. Add the is at the column. So I'll copy this, paste. Okay. Move on. Say running again to head. Come here. Clear my screen. Should expect the same error. Okay, yeah, that was correct. And that is okay. It makes sense. It says we have now added the latest transaction date column to database. Okay. It says partial revision identifiers. Anytime we need to refer to a revision number explicitly, we have the option to use a partial number. As long as this number uniquely identifies the version, it may be used in any command in any place that version numbers are accepted. Okay, saying Alembic upgrade this. The thing above, we use AE1 to refer to revision this. Okay, Alembic will stop and let you know if more than one version starts with that prefix. Okay, yeah, so it's like the prefix. So you see AE1 is the prefix for this whole thing. Relative migration identifier. The thing relative upgrades or downgrades are also supported. To move two versions from the current, a decimal value plus n can be supported. So if I say Alembic upgrade plus 2, it will move two versions from the current. Say negative values are also accepted for downgrade. Say Alembic downgrade. Okay, nice. Relative identifiers may also be in terms of a specific revision. For example, to upgrade to revision this plus 2 additional steps. Okay. So the thing upgrade to this revision. Okay. So it's the prefix of this one plus 2, meaning 2 additional steps. Okay. Interesting. So can upgrade or downgrade. So getting information. The thing with few revisions present, we can get some information about the state of things. First, we can get the current revision. Say Alembic current. Okay. Alembic current. Okay, I understand. We have to use it via Docker Alembic current so to have access to the database. Okay. Yeah, I guess I need to fix this warning. Okay. Need to fix this warning. But if you look at here, what we get here, we get 001 head. Okay. That's the current one. Probably. The thing head is displayed only if the revision identifier for this database matches the current. Head is displayed only if the revision identifier for this database matches the head revision. They're saying we can also view the history with Alembic history. They're saying the verbose option accepted by several commands, including history, current, heads, and branches will show us full information about each revision. So they say Alembic history, verbose. Let me try it out. Okay, I keep forgetting. I have to run this via Docker because my database is in the Docker container. So Alembic history verbose. Okay, that's what we get. Okay, yeah, similar output. But of course, we don't have these other things, okay? Like create account table did not work, okay? So the thing viewing history changes. The thing using the -r option to Alembic history we can also view slices of history. The -r argument accepts an argument start, then end, where either may be a revision number, symbols like head, heads, or base current to specify the current revision or revisions, as well as negative relative ranges for start and positive relative ranges for end. Okay, I'll give an example. Alembic history, the -r. Okay, this could be the start to the end. So these are prefixes for the revisions. Then let's say a relative range starting from 3 revs go up to current migrations, which will invoke the migration environment against the database to get the current migration. So Alembic history, then that. As illustrated above, to use ranges that start with a negative number, that is to say a dash, due to a bug in AgPaths, either the syntax, this, without any space, must be used as above. Okay, in this Alembic history, okay, like that. Okay, -r, look at that, you can use negative numbers. Words like current, so to say you can use current, base, heads, head. Okay, then so, or if using minus range dash range, an equal sign must be used. Okay, like this. Using quotes or escape symbols will not work if there's a space after the argument name. So you're saying to view all revisions from 1995 to head. You do this, okay? Alembic history -r 1975 EA. Okay. So this is the start. Okay. Then the head is to the beginning. So separates the start and the end is this full colon. So downgrading is saying we can illustrate a downgrade back to nothing by calling Alembic downgrade back to the beginning, which is in Alembic, which in Alembic is called base. Say Alembic downgrade base. Okay, this will downgrade back to the beginning. Of course, I don't have to apply this to my project. Let's say back to nothing and up again. So you can say Alembic upgrade head to get back. Okay, interesting. My only concern is that I hope this is not done manually. Okay, let me look at what AI did for me in this first one. Okay, in upgrade, we see they added a column called booking. Okay, then you have the downgrade, which is for removing. Not bad. All right, so yeah, I think this has been a good walkthrough. If I had actually done these streams when I was fresh, okay, if I had done the past 2 streams when I was fresh, I should have finished this in one stream. Okay, luckily for me, I've been able to create some time today and do this in one go and cover this tutorial. So yeah, every day is a day to learn something new, and from time to time, the more I practice this, I'm sure I'll understand Alembic. This is just my first step time using Alembic. Okay, and because now I've understood it, I can prompt AI to do things and always check the documentation, ask prompt AI about certain things, or even ask colleagues, Google, and so on, YouTube. Okay, but this is a good first step. So yeah, I'm going to delete these files. Okay, and like go inside, I'm going to push the code. Okay, for what the changes that we did to GitHub, so you can see what we did concerning the payment gateway. And yeah, let's meet in the next video where I'll be continuing to build the flight booking engine. Bye for now.